All right, we're live, and I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me and see me. And there's a little chat box off the right-hand side, or there should be for you. So you can chat in that chat box and say hello. Just let me know where you're located. What city are you in? If you say guest on your name, say what your name is, city you're in, and say what your profession is. When people ask you what you do, uh, go ahead and say what it is that you do. Wow! Oh my gosh, Kazakhstan. Hello, Jorge. Julian or Julian or Jorge, lots of guests in here. I wish I could see how many viewers there actually was. Okay, it's telling me now 65 viewers. I think there's going to be quite a few more. I meant to come 10 minutes early, but unfortunately there were some technical difficulties, and hopefully those are over. Oh my gosh, I can't believe! Wow, that is just absolutely going nuts. I'm really excited today. Um, because it's the 5th anniversary of Design for Hackers. I guess I'm selfishly excited about that, but I'm also really excited about this webinar, and I'm really impressed that so many people are taking time out of their day and coming here to learn stuff. And I want to make that really valuable time. I really do not take that lightly, that you have taken time out of your day to come be here live with me for this training. We have 103 people in here right now, 109. Okay, oh, that's a lot considering, and I can't even do shout outs really. Okay, Derek from Florida, Brazil. I'm in Colombia, which is where I live now. So we're almost like neighbors relative to how much of neighbors we were before when I lived in Chicago, at least. India, DevOps engineer, Rebecca from Colorado, web designer, Rodrigo, Anton, full stack software engineer, beginner designer, Rebecca. Okay, great. All right. Well, it's been nice showing you my face, but I'm going to put the presentation on. I'm not going to delay anymore because I want to make sure that I make really good use of your time today. So, Mark Maloon, sweet. Well, you're going to be meeting Mark in the presentation today a little bit. So just to start off, has anybody here ever felt creatively blocked? And this is a silly question because this is the whole reason why we're even having this webinar. If you felt creatively blocked before, put a 1 in the chat box. Just put a 1 in there. 122 viewers. Holy cow. Just put a 1 in there. Oh, there's probably going to be a bit of a delay as well. Put a 1, and that's what this is all about. You are in the right place if you have ever felt really creatively stuck, like pain in your chest kind of stuck. You have a deadline breathing down your neck. You are trying to get this thing done, and you just can't seem to go any further. And maybe the project was going good, and then all of a sudden you're stuck. Or maybe after you get through a certain point, then you get to this beautiful part of the project where everything just seems to be aligning together and you're having fun and you're jamming. When you're stuck, you want nothing more than to be back in that. And I'm not seeing any 1s in the chat room, so I don't know whether that's because nobody heard my question about whether you've ever been creatively stuck before, or if nobody's ever been creatively stuck, and in which case you're all in the wrong place. I'm sorry to have wasted your time. But I hope that the chat is working. I hope I start seeing some 1s really soon here from folks in the chat room. Or is this, oh, okay, all right, I'm looking at the chat all wrong. I was like scrolled way down. There's a ton of 1s in the chat room. So yes, it totally makes sense. So that's the question we're going to be asking today is, what should I do when I get stuck? What can I do when I feel that pain point? Actually, go ahead and say in the chat room while I talk, when was the last time that you were stuck on a creative project? What was the project? Just say really quick. Who should be here? I think that you're probably all in the right place, but generally it's going to be developers, entrepreneurs, designers, whether UI, UX, web designer, or even graphic designers. e-learning instructional designers, tends to be a lot of you in the community as well. Good to have you, and scientists and academics, anyone really using design or making things. And this can apply to all sorts of different creative projects. Okay, science fiction story. Today with a website design, somebody was having trouble. Today with somebody was having trouble with a logo. Somebody was having trouble with a web design, and they're a writer. Just a simple flyer. So yeah, all sorts of different projects that you just get creatively stuck on. And of course, you know what it's like to have a creative project that's going really well, where all the cylinders are firing really well. That's like, I think of it like, if any of you ever played golf, it's kind of a strange analogy, maybe a lot of you don't. And it's a horribly frustrating game, but you just have like that one great strike of the ball one time, and that's what keeps you coming back. That's what keeps you coming back to this creative work, is that it feels great to have that stuff turn out right. It feels great to deliver a project on time to your client. It feels great to have your teammates say what a great job you did. And so that's what we want to get to. So what to expect? First 5 minutes is going to be like an introduction. We're in that right now. Then we're going to talk about keeping your team or yourself on track with creative briefs. We're going to spend about 10 minutes talking about that. Spend about 10 minutes talking about giving yourself a grip with vision boards, and then another 10 minutes talking about busting through blocks with block breaking moves. And I do have a special offer announcement today at the end of all of this. I can only teach you so much in a half an hour, and there's going to be an opportunity for you to learn more. And it'll be a part of this celebration of 5 years. About me, if a lot of you are already on my email list, my name is David Cadeby. I'm at Cadeby on Twitter, where I'm very active. And I have experienced getting stuck in creative blocks so many times throughout my career. You know, I wanted nothing more than to have a creative profession. And so I went to school and got a graphic design degree. And throughout all of that, and then I just would constantly get stuck. I'd feel the pain. I'd want to go under my desk. There'd be a deadline breathing down my neck. And I would just thrash. And then I would work as a designer in all sorts of different industries, in advertising and architecture and Silicon Valley startups. And I realized once I was in the real world, like, you really, yes, the webinar has started, Mike, so you should try to reconnect. Oh, thank you for your help, Sebastian. And so I was getting stuck all the time, and it's such a horrible feeling. You want to hide underneath your desk. You start wondering if you're even cut out for this. But finally, over time, I started to develop methodologies for getting unstuck, and for getting creative on command, and for making creativity happen when it needs to happen. And one of those projects that I really got forced to do that on was with Design for Hackers, the book that I wrote, where I had a very, very tight deadline. I had an enormous creative project. I had never written a book before. Are you kidding me? And I just really had to suffer through a lot of it, but I started to develop ways of keeping myself creative. And that book came out 5 years ago today. It was top 20 on Amazon. And you can see I was beating Go the F to sleep. And this is part of this webinar today, is this celebration of 5 years. And I'm excited to keep teaching you now. It looks like, is the chat going? Yes, okay. I hope that everybody's still able to hear me and see everything on the screen just fine. Just type a little yes in there, just to make sure. I want to make sure that you're getting all this. So the first tactic for getting out of the creative blocks, for getting out of being stuck, is creative briefs. And creative briefs can really help keep your project on track. You've all been there before, whether you're working by yourself or you're working for a team. A creative project just kind of falls off of its tracks. You get stuck, you don't know where to go, there's no direction. And it's very frustrating, and you end up just trying to figure it out and throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. But there are actually intentional ways that you can keep creative projects on track. I think of it like Chewbacca here, this ferocious little dog. This dog perfectly represents what's going on with your problem client, with that teammate that keeps nitpicking your work, or oftentimes with yourself, is that there's just this anxiety that builds up, and you lose control, you lose direction, and you don't really know where to go. And who do you call when you have a ferocious little puppy like this? You call the dog whisperer. I don't know if you've ever seen Cesar Millan or seen his show before, but it's incredible. You have a little fluffy dog like the one that we saw earlier, and this guy comes into the room and he is just totally in charge. He just goes like a couple times, and the dog, which was snarling and growling and biting everybody, all of a sudden it's just like, okay, this guy's in charge. I'm following him. He's the pack leader. This is exactly what you need in your creative project, whether you're working by yourself or you're working with others. You need creative leadership. You need some sort of direction to the project, and that's where creative briefs come very in handy. A creative brief is a document that explores and defines the objectives of a creative project. So what is in a creative brief? You're going to have a project overview. You just generally, it sounds really obvious, but just writing about what is this project? What does it entail? That is really important to define. The target audience, very important to define all of that. And the primary objective, what do you want the viewer to do? It's very important to define all these things. You can do so in a creative brief, and it helps get your project on track. And I'll show you how in a little bit. Other things you want to say is rational and emotional reasoning. Why would the viewer take that action? Why would they not? And then also, we've all had a project where just the last minute you realize, oh, we forgot to put the phone number on there, or we forgot to put the logo on there or something. You want to make sure you have all that required information spelled out so that you don't have any surprises later on that throw things off track. So I'm going to show you an example of a creative brief in action. This is from one of my students, Mohit, who was taking a logo course that I'm working on that's in alpha stage right now. And one of the questions in the creative brief, and notice that this question isn't even on the stuff that I talked about earlier, because a creative brief really, you can be answering any question that's necessary, but the ones I mentioned are good examples. But anyway, one of the questions in that brief for the logo design is, what are some complementary businesses? Complementary businesses in this case are like, okay, what's a business that's not necessarily a competitor of yours, but is a business that people who are your customers would also be customers of? And you know, if you're Coca-Cola, maybe it's Doritos or something like that. It's like, what goes well together? Coke and Doritos? I don't even know. I haven't eaten Doritos for a long time. But you can see that Mohit grabbed some logos for some companies that he felt were complementary. And so those were there for him to use as reference. Another question was, are there any companies that evoke the right feel? And notice these are all visual. You can do, a lot of this is going to be written in a creative brief. But a lot of times people will have a preconceived notion about what a project is going to look like, whether it's your client or whether it's yourself. You know, your client comes to you as like, oh, I love this lawn care service company's logo. You make my logo look just like that. Well, if it has the right feel, that can be a good starting point. But of course, it's dangerous if a client goes down that road where they want you to make something look just like a particular logo. But this helps put things on track. And actually, I'm going to get into the next tactic in a little bit here, and we'll see where Mohit ended up after he used this next tactic. And this creative brief that I've been talking about, I have a template that you'll be able to download, and it's not a PDF like, you know, a lot of people give out PDFs. It's actually going to be a Google Doc that you can drag images into and write into and keep within your Google Drive and everything. But I'm going to have that available after I go through the tactics. Then at the end, you'll be able to download all of those. So stick around for that. So tactic number 2 is get a grip with vision boards. So there are all these sort of unconscious associations that go on with design. If there's a logo, or even if there's an interface, there's different lines and shapes and colors that your audience is going to sort of subconsciously associate with things. That's why I've got a picture of Sigmund Freud here, because that was totally his bag, the unconscious. Just kidding, that's not Sigmund Freud, that's me. This is Sigmund Freud. But using a vision board, you can kind of tap into these unconscious associations and then use them deliberately in your project. Now, one of the things I discovered that don't confuse vision boards with the self-help type vision boards, this is a sample of one, which is like you take a bunch of pictures from a magazine, and then you know things you want to manifest in your life, like cool cars and dope houses and six-pack abs, and you put them on a board and you put that on your wall, and then somehow it manifests itself in your life. That's not what we're really going for here, but it is in some ways related. It's not a huge stretch. A vision board is really a collection of imagery that you collect together, and it helps inform the design qualities of a project. It helps you decide on those shapes and those colors and those different associations that are going to be going on in your project. So to create a vision board, you just identify qualities that you want your project to convey, and you'll see this in action in a little bit here. You can find images that convey those qualities, and then you just pull out the design elements. You pull out the colors and the shapes and the textures, and you use those in your project, often in really subtle ways. So Mohit, in his vision board for the logo design course that he was in, I have a template for that course where one of the categories is you take your brand words. One of his brand words was professional. He wanted his web design company to look professional. So there are different categories. That you can explore in that template, and one of them is in nature. So there's going to be a bit of a delay here, so hopefully this will work out. But can anybody think of, if you were to think about something from nature that made you think of the word professional, what plants or animals or insects, etc., might you put in your vision board? I just want to get people making the connection here so that it's not totally theoretical. Help get you thinking about this so you can use this in your project. A beaver, a wolverine, bees, tall tree, ants, scenery, owl. Great, I'm loving all of this. So with penguins, beavers, penguins. Penguins. I was thinking of penguins too, because penguins, they're like always wearing a tux, right? That's pretty professional, or maybe that's formal. So anyway, a lot of you are really on the same wavelength as Mohit was, and he chose ants, bees, a beaver. They're always making those damn dams, and geese. They're always flying in formation. Spiders are very organized with the way they make webs, and then I'm embarrassed. Is that a female lion? I'm not sure. I guess I need to go back to school and learn about my basic mammals. Anyway, these are all animals and insects that he put in his vision board, just in that category, to explore this word. And then he started taking some of those elements and putting them into his logo ideas. So here's just like, he had obviously dozens and dozens of sketches, but here's one collection of sketches that he did where he was messing with hexagonal shapes like honeycombs from a bee hive, or he was messing with making it look like geese flying in formation. And then here's a few of those designs, some of the more literal versions of that, where there's a hexagon, or there's these look like geese, they're flying in formation, or then hexagons that are sort of flying in formation. So just using all of those. Oh, great, it is a lioness. All right, I'm right. This is good. So these were, you can start to see the way, actually, I'm wondering, can you see the way that these shapes come from the things that were in the vision board? Just type a 1 in the chat if you can see that in action, if you can see that happening. And then eventually, after thinking about the composition and the design principles and the balance of everything, and revisiting that the brief and the vision board, he finally refined down to this, where it's not very literal, but you can see that there is a bit of a honeycomb shape implied there. At the same time, it looks a little bit like geese flying in a formation. So isn't that really cool? And this really takes all the sticking points out of the creative process, because instead of just sitting down and saying, I'm looking at a blank canvas and saying, okay, I got to make a logo for this company, you're breaking down the process, and each part of that process is just a little part. Like, how hard is it to go on that vision board and look at, okay, nature, and then grab some images and throw them in there? Like, that's really easy, and it gives you a handhold to grab onto. If you think about, like, if you were climbing up a mountain, you got to have handholds to get you along, instead of just trying to like leap to the top of the mountain all at once, which is what it feels like you're trying to do when you are facing a blank canvas and you are trying to make a creative project just happen. So that vision board template that I was talking about, that's in that course that isn't available yet. I should stop talking about that course because it's not available yet. That vision board template is going to be available for download at the end here, along with that creative brief. Just stick around after this next tactic. That'll be available for download. So next up is tactic 3. Build your arsenal of moves. Now I think about this like, I like to go salsa dancing. And yes, for all of those who are familiar with dancing, this is not salsa dancing, it's probably tango. And when I go, it always looks exactly like this. But salsa dancing is totally a nerve-wracking thing, especially when you are leading and when you're trying to learn. You're like trying to not look like an idiot, and you're trying to think of something of like the next move, and is it going to go with the song? And you're really just in your head. It's a lot like being in any sort of creative project where it's easy to see it from the outside. It looks easier when you're actually inside of it. It's very difficult to think of what that next move is. And that's why it's nice to have some sort of go-to moves that you can go with. Carlton had the Carlton always knew what moves he needed to do, or he always did the same moves, right? So he had his dance move. He could just like go to it all the time. He had it perfected. So I think that it's important to have some moves for your creative process. And moves are just, by moves, I mean just quick actions that you can take. You can break through a creative block, and you can use them over and over again. And you can always, whenever you get stuck, you can rely on these moves to help get you going again. So one move that I love, I call back to the brief. And this is just revisiting the creative brief. You go look at the creative brief and say, does the objective still make sense? Sometimes you get a project moving and you come back to the brief and you realize, actually this doesn't feel right. This is the wrong objective. We should be going for this other objective. And if then you just rewrite that part of the creative brief. And so has anything changed in there? Is your approach aligned with what's stated in the brief? Sometimes you get moving on a project and you move in a creative direction where you revisit the brief and you realize that your whole approach that you've decided to use, maybe it's colors or the visual style, that's not what you planned in the brief at all. And actually the brief is a better approach, or maybe the approach that you've come up with is better than the approach that you saw in the brief. Or are there still more questions that the brief could answer? Maybe there's some other questions that are in your mind as you're working on this project, and you haven't covered those in the brief. So just remember that a brief is really just to provide some sort of design leadership or some creative leadership, and it doesn't have to be the same set of questions. Each project is going to be unique, and so sometimes there's going to be some questions that you need to answer that aren't answered in your brief, and so you need to go back and revisit those. So that's just back to the brief, a move that I really love. I think that really helps get things on track, and this is great with working with clients or that pesky teammate or pesky boss, especially if you can start off a project with a brief. And then they say, oh, well, let's put polka dots on it. Well, let's revisit the brief and look at our audience. And, that's a good idea. Let's consider that. Let's look at our audience and let's look at what we have collected together. Now, does that make sense? Now, ideally, you're going to be controlling the conversation in a way where there's some sort of feedback capture going on where people aren't just going to blurt out, oh, I don't like that color, or I don't, I want some polka dots on there or something, which that's a bit outside the scope of our training today, but there's ways to control that conversation. But having a brief, at least referring back to it, can really help keep things on track. The next one is I call the media mix. And this is just switching up the mediums. It's really easy, especially when you're staring at a screen. When you're staring at the screen, it's the most dangerous, because when you are staring at a screen, you're like a finger flick away from Facebook, or even if you have some sort of a blocker on your computer where you're blocking yourself. Freedom app is one that does that. Even then, maybe you have your phone next to you and you pick up your phone and you just start, you never do that. You just find yourself in this pattern. You end up in like the Bermuda Triangle of productivity, where you just, okay, check my email, check Twitter, check Facebook, check my email, check Twitter, check Facebook. You keep giving yourself these dopamine hits thinking that you're keeping going. And it's very easy to go that way when you get stuck in a creative project, because that's when you get antsy. That's when the little ferocious little dog comes out that makes you go in all sorts of different directions, or shiny object syndrome, as it's often called as well. So with media mix, don't forget to sketch things by hand sometimes. And if you're sketching, sometimes you need to go to code. Like there's this whole movement going on now with web design, where there's a lot of people advocating, well, design in the browser. Just code things and look at it in the browser and design that way. And that's really great. That's really effective because you are creating stuff as you're designing. But there's sometimes where that's not always the best case. Myself, sometimes I'll sketch things out and get an idea of the general outline of the site. And then I will say, okay, well, I'm gonna code that. And so I might make a code snippet, or I might start the whole project. But then as I'm coding, I'll run across something where I'm like, well, I wonder what this would look like. But then when I imagine how I'm gonna code it, I realize that's gonna take forever for me to code. So then I take a screenshot, I bring it into Photoshop, and then I just I'm not doing a whole mock-up. I'm just doing that little section of it to get an idea of what things are gonna look like. If I like the way it looks, then maybe I go ahead and code it. And so I'm switching amongst code and actually sketching things. I don't mean sketch the program, but sketch books like on paper, or in Illustrator or Photoshop. And don't forget, you can also you can write. Just sit down in a chair and write for a bit, or you can just think as well. Like these are all different ways of attacking the problems that you're trying to solve. And I find them really useful because really the right medium is the one that solves the question that's in your mind about the project, about where you need to go next. And that could be that you can't decide what to do because you need to revisit your creative brief. It could be that you can't decide what to do because you need to revisit your vision board and get some more ideas to work with. It could be that the medium that you're using is too cumbersome to put the vision that you have in your head into some sort of a form where you can get feedback on whether or not it's working. Is this stuff starting to make sense? And there's going to be a chance for questions at the end. But just go ahead and type a 1 in there if I'm making sense and you can still hear me and stuff. I know it's been quiet in the chat room for a bit, so hopefully it's because y'all are listening. The next one is the 10-minute mind surf. And I've talked a little bit about something like this before, and something called the 10-minute hack. I really love setting timers for things like this, because if I were to tell you, go sit down and write about this project, well, then you get a little bit anxious about that, because you kind of feel like, well, I'm billing time. I kind of feel like I'm wasting my client's time, or it feels really painful to and I don't really know how long this is going to take, and it's tough to do. But if you set a timer, then that sort of shuts off the critic in your mind, for me at least, because you can take 10 minutes to write something, and 10 minutes isn't going to take you too far away from your project. And so it's obviously a much better thing to do than, a lot of people will say, well, like, oh, I'll just go for a walk when I get stuck. Yeah, you go for a walk, and the next thing you know, you've burnt like 30 minutes. If you just change to something like this 10-minute mind surf, then you're at least you're making forward progress on your project, and you're giving your brain a rest from whatever type of activity it was doing before. So, ask yourself as you're free writing, does that make me reconsider anything about the brief? Does it make me reconsider anything about the approach? And notice I'm calling it a mind surf. I could call it a brain surf as well. It's very different from a brainstorm. When you are brainstorming, you are deliberately trying to come up with ideas to meet a particular problem. With a brain surf, you are just kind of writing out loud whatever it is that you're thinking. And in some cases, you might have a colleague that you really like to just talk to, where you can do a brain surf of some kind, where they're asking you questions. But I really like to do it writing, where I kind of like, all right, well, there's this tension in my brain right now about this thing. What is the question that needs to be answered? If I could answer a question for myself that would move me forward, what would that be? I'd go ahead and write it down. And you're just surfing along, you're writing the contours of your brain to try to get an idea of where you are with the project. Okay, so I think we're still doing pretty good on time, which is great. Let's go ahead and review that. Just really quick, use creative briefs to explore and define your project's objectives and how to meet them. And use vision boards to explore the design properties of your project. You can get those unconscious associations going, explore those, put those elements into your design project. Building an arsenal of moves, having things that you can just fall back on when things get tough to keep your project moving is great to have happen. Okay, now all those goodies, I'm gonna try to keep this on here for a few seconds, but I've got the offer and announcement next for you. But those goodies, the vision board, the creative brief, these are Google Docs that you can actually make a copy of and work with, and you can drag things onto them. The vision board has different categories to help you brainstorm. The creative brief has some questions to help you get started. These are all at designforhackers.com/goodies, and you can go there and download this stuff very easily. Oh, also the yellow thing you see there, that is the slide deck itself for this presentation, in case there is anything else in it that you want to reference at some point. So you can go ahead. I'm keeping this up for just a few seconds more. Remember that URL, designforhackers.com/goodies, or go there right now and just quickly download the things. It's several megabytes, so it does take a little while to download. And yeah, okay, so now what else can you do? You have these main things that you can do to bust through creative blocks, but what else can you do? Well, obviously, if you could magically, if you could wave a magic wand, you would just be better at design. You'd be better at understanding how to make things beautiful and how to make things express what it is you want to express. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy to learn how to code, but there's at least some sort of structure to code. I know that I find it really nice I find it really nice as it is a nice change from visual design sometimes, because there is documentation that you can follow. If you have trouble, you can look up the documentation for that class or that method, and you can, if it's not working like you expected, there's probably a bug report somewhere. You can do some Googling, you can find whatever it is that you're looking for on it. But it's really tough when it comes to design, because there's not really this, it doesn't seem as logical. It seems a lot more nebulous. But over the years, and that's obviously what Design for Hackers is all about. It is for open sourcing visual designs, open sourcing and providing some sort of a framework for understanding, a framework level understanding of design, of what it is that makes something well designed, what makes something beautiful and functional, and a good use of the technology at hand. How many of you recognize this? Just type a 1 into the chat room. How many of you recognize this from maybe you took the Summer of Design course that I had a while back? And you remember this plastic chair? And do you remember some of the things that made this plastic chair what it was? Go ahead and put those in the chat. Getting all those ones. Now I can finally start paying attention to Carrie Millsap's here, cool. And seeing who else I recognize. But yeah, oh, they're getting zeros. Okay, that's very funny. No, zero is, that must mean that no, they haven't seen it before. That's possible. So do you remember any of the stuff? Tell me, why is the chair shaped the way that it is? It's stackable, strength by right angles, cheap, functional, stackable, right? Like there's all these things that come together to make this chair what it is. Like a chair has a certain shape to it because the human's body has to sit on it, right? Like you can't just make a chair whatever shape you want. And then for this particular chair, they want it to be stackable and lightweight, and so it's got those cambered legs, so it's stackable and everything. So like all these different layers that are coming together to make the design what it is. And I think that if you can deconstruct and understand these layers, then you can start to have like a framework level understanding of design and what makes things look great and work great. And through that, you can get stuck much less often on your creative projects and get things moving. So I have a course, which many of you probably already know about, called D4H Video, where I break down all of this. And I use a lot of different methods of teaching this. This has been one of my obsessions over the last 5 years, is how do we learn things? You know, for myself, I learned design a long time ago, but lately it's been about like learning how to dance and learning the language of Spanish and living in Colombia and things like that. And it's just been fascinating to me to see that there's really this horrible myth that certain people can't learn how to design. For me, it's like, oh, I'm white, so like I'm not supposed to be able to know how to Latin dance, which is total nonsense. Total nonsense. I even down here in Colombia, there's plenty of people who have no clue how to dance, and they have this nonsense idea that somehow if you aren't Latino, you don't know how to dance. It's total nonsense. It's just really a matter of being exposed to the right things and learning that. This is something that I really truly believe. And so this is what I try to do with D4H Video, is break this down. So there's 3 modules to the course. Module 1 is laying the foundation, kind of setting the groundwork for understanding the base level of the framework that you're going to get installed into your brain. There's a couple of lectures for that. There's module 2, exposing the layers. That's where we start getting to, all right, well, what are the layers that are at work that make a piece of design a great piece of design? I even have SEO in there because I think that's a really important component of design that unfortunately has been overlooked, was definitely overlooked maybe 10 years ago in the design scene. The things that were winning awards, you couldn't find any of the information that was on the site. So there is the exposing the layers module. There's the communicating visually module. This is sort of like the last layer. This is more the aesthetic things, where the color meanings. Color and data is a great one, where it shows you some of the idiosyncrasies about how how different technologies are used to express color, and how can you accurately represent data with those colors. Visual factors of hierarchy, that one's very important to having clean typography. Things like font and typographic etiquette. There's those 3 modules there. And these are really short videos. They're like 5 minutes each. There's a reason why I make them 5 minutes, is because one thing I've learned is that it's more important to build the habit to do something than it is to do whatever your perfect vision of doing that thing is. For me, it's like, I just hired a personal trainer, and she's a remote personal trainer, and she sends me these, she sends me Google Docs, and I told her, okay, I can realistically get myself to go to the gym for half an hour 3 times a week. Yes, I know ideally I would go to the gym for an hour 3 times a week or 5 times a week, but no, I can realistically get myself to the gym for half an hour 3 times a week. So give me a program for that. So she's made this spreadsheet with all these different exercises in it, and I'm making so much better use of my gym time. Everybody else is in there like socializing and lazily stretching, and I've got my spreadsheet. I'm trying to make it happen in half an hour, get in the gym and get out and build that habit. And that's why I have a program, a lesson calendar for D4H Video, which says which video to view on each day, and then there's a challenge, there's an exercise that goes along with it. Basically, roughly 15 minutes total every day. And so it's all really about building the habit. And then, you've got 15 minutes. If it's important to you to not get stuck in your creative projects, to deliver things on time, to be able to communicate well with your teammates and stakeholders and keep things on track, it is well worth your time to take 15 minutes to learn these things. Now, the beauty of it is that you could sit down and binge watch all of this stuff, but because there's space in between, then there's other learning that takes place. I don't know if any of you listen to my podcast with the neuroscientist John Kunos, you know that sleep is work, that when you're asleep and your brain is reorganizing and taking in information that came in through the day and integrating it into your understanding of the world. So that's why this lesson calendar, it's 5 weeks, is roughly a video every day, and then rest on the weekends is what's prescribed for this. So there's a lesson calendar to actually give you little handholds, little chunks to move you along in learning this stuff. And then there are the challenges where you're actually given like really simple challenges that take 10 minutes each to exercise your understanding of each component of this framework. And I think it's really powerful because a lot of times, I know like the way that I learned a lot of the time was just randomly working on projects and getting stuck and sorting through a whole bunch of articles to try to find something that's maybe going to give me some inspiration. And to have some kind of a prescription to follow is just far more effective in learning any sort of thing. Now, you can do all of that. You can learn everything about this framework. You can practice it with the 10-minute challenges. But really where the rubber meets the road, that's the part that really, oh, you missed the name of the course. The name of the course is D4H Video. The part that really matters is where the rubber meets the road, right? Like you ultimately want to learn this stuff because it's going to make you perform better in your job, make you a better professional. You're going to be delivering stuff on time. You're going to be delivering great work that makes your boss take you seriously, that makes your colleagues say, yeah, just let this person do their job because this person knows what they're doing. This may get you seats. This will get you seats at the table when it comes to making decisions and stuff. Where the rubber meets the road, that's where it really matters, right? It's like you can learn all this theory, you can practice it, but you have to practice it deliberately, like where things are really happening. Now that's a little bit trickier because you have different experiences. Not every product is the same. And so this is where community becomes really important. And I love the D4H community that has been built up over the 5 years. Actually, I'm wondering who remembers Design for Hackers 5 years ago? Who remembers it in 18 on Amazon? I'm wondering that, just type remember if you remember that in the chat room. And so this is from a meetup that I had in New York last year. And the D4H community has some very motivated people in any profession that you can imagine, and they're all just trying to figure out how to get this design literacy integrated into doing their work better, communicating with designers better, doing their design work themselves sometimes. And so that's why in D4H Video, there is a private Facebook community full of community members who are in the course, and your mileage may vary. Mark Maloon here says, I'm guilty of spending too much time on Facebook, but I find it invaluable for getting feedback on things I'm thinking about or working on. Just got some great feedback on a graphic design project I'm wrapping up within a mere 30 minutes of requesting assistance. Now, this is why I say your mileage may vary. This was a Saturday evening or something, and Mark just put something up, and then people came into the community and were answering his questions and stuff. And so it's just great to have somebody to bounce ideas off of and to get feedback from, and somebody who speaks the same language as you, who has the same vocabulary as you around this stuff. And to make it even more intimate and get community members knowing each other and knowing what one another is working on and helping each other out, we have monthly hangouts. And things are caught up us for a second there. So we have monthly hangouts. These are great. We're actually having one, I think, next week. So I'm going to give you a chance to join in a little bit if you want to make it to hangout, and we talk about all sorts of things. The latest hangout we had somebody from IBM, and she is being given sandbox time to do continuing ed, and she's learning about design so that she can work on projects within IBM. We had somebody from Apple who is, this is all in the same hangout, but we also had somebody from IBM and Apple, somebody from Apple who is an engineer that is going to be going out to the California office and learning, working with the UI team to try to learn some of the stuff through osmosis. And yeah, is Mark still here? Julian's asking. Mark was here a second ago. I think he was called in. And yeah, so we talk about all sorts of things. You're going to see all the things that we do talk about. There's actually, not only do you have the live hangouts that you can attend and get help with your specific problems, there's a vault of 20 plus hours of this instruction. There was a time where we talked about Facebook ad design. There was a time where I gave a little clinic on design principles in theme design. Mark, that's a picture of Mark there, hacked LinkedIn to find a job. He's a data scientist by training, and he figured out a way to become the top ranked data scientist on LinkedIn. So if you typed in data scientist on LinkedIn, Mark was the first hit. And so he gave a whole clinic during one of these hangouts about how he reverse engineered LinkedIn to land this job. And so a lot of these people who are in the community, they end up teaching from their experiences as well. And we cover all sorts of stuff. We've covered personal branding, viral marketing, client management, CSS, product development, remote work culture, passive revenue, storytelling, data science, email marketing, user experience design, book publishing, font selection. There's 20 plus hours of all this backlog footage. Yeah, and so what does this cost? So D4H Video Lite, just the video lessons themselves, that goes for $179, and you can find that by Googling, and that's totally available for you, but I have a much better deal for you today. What I'm talking about is D4H Video Motivation Overdrive, and that has the 20 video lessons. It has another insightful user experience lesson. It has the 5-week lesson plan, which tells you on which days to do which exercises and which videos to watch. Got to go to a new page here. The 10-minute challenges checklist, that is those challenges that help you practice all these concepts. There is the private Facebook group for bouncing ideas off of people and stuff. There's monthly hangouts for that camaraderie and support. And then there's a Hangout Vault access with more than 20 hours of footage there. So it's just review all that. 20 video lessons, bonus insightful user experience lesson, 5-week lesson plan, 10-minute challenges checklist, private Facebook group, monthly hangouts, Hangout Vault access. What does that usually cost? Okay, that costs $49 a month with 6 payments. And the way this works, people get instant access. This can be all self-paced. And once you have made the 6 payments, you are in that community forever. You have lifetime access to that community, and you have lifetime access to all the stuff that all the material that you've downloaded and watched and stuff. But it's not $49 a month today, because remember, this is 5 years that Design for Hackers has been out. We are celebrating today. So instead, it is going to be $37 a month, 6 payments of $37 a month, and you have lifetime access to all that stuff. I'm going to see if I can put this offer up in the room here. It's just going to take a second. Boom. Okay, there it is now. The 5th anniversary special. If you click on the little join now button, it'll take you straight to a cart that through which you can purchase. It doesn't take you to the landing page. If you want to learn all about it, you can Google D4H Video. The reason why I go straight to the cart is because this is just for the people who are on this webinar, and so I had to make a special cart for it to go straight through. I didn't want to mess up the landing page for the other folks who don't have access to this deal. So, okay, and that's also available at designforhackers.com/5-year if you don't see the offer sitting up. If you don't see the offer in there on your screen. But of course, wait, there is more. because it is our 5-year anniversary. We are celebrating. I am trying to give you as much value as possible today. There is this really important element of design about the alignment of things, the spacing of things. This is like sort of invisible forces that are at work in everything, such as the way that these boxes are lined up, that affects the way that when somebody's looking at the way their eye moves around through this. And these things are at work in all sorts of compositions of all types, and they are very important elements of creating actual work that is actually very clean and communicates your message very clearly, and that eventually converts. So that's why I have another course. It's called White Hot Course Mastering Whitespace. And the key element of this course is a talk that I did at South by Southwest. Many of you probably heard of South by Southwest or been to South by Southwest, or you wanted to go to South by Southwest and you weren't able to go. Now's a chance to attend a talk there. I worked on this talk for like 6 months or something. I traveled all over the United States trying to get the timing right and trying to get feedback from people and trying to make sure everything made sense. And so I've got really carefully timed animations. I've made it to be engaging, and it is an official South by Southwest talk. I paid South by Southwest $2,000 just for the rights to be able to give you this talk. And I hired a film crew, so the film crew came in there and they filmed it all, and it's all, I personally edited it to make it really engaging, get those time animations going. So that really gives you a nice introduction to theory and the practice and actual real world use of white space. But there's also a short ebook in there called Mastering Whitespace. And this is a hidden spatial language revealed, and it's got different combos in there, which are kind of like the moves that I was talking about, things that you can, patterns that you can use over and over again, or that you see over and over again for alignment and for spacing to make things really clean. And you're going to see some real world examples in there. Also, there are whitespace makeover screencasts where I go into the code of various sites and I edit that code and show you these concepts at work using actual code. Now, don't worry if you're not a coder yourself, that's not like necessary, but if you are, this is really helpful in understanding the way that these concepts are applied. And by the way, there's 3 of those. There's one for OkDork, Mixergy, and Hacker News. I redesigned all those sites just by rearranging the white space and the sizing of things. And there's also White Magic, where you get to see me do a blog design from scratch where I use all these concepts, and it comes along with companion code. So if you are a coder, you can work along with that code along with the screencast if you'd like. All right, so White Hot Course, this is the pro version of White Hot Course. This is normally $198. Now remember, it's already $37 a month for 6 payments. So that's that's really right around the same price or so. But White Hot Course is not going to be $198 for you. You get everything from before, but this is getting thrown in for free. This is designforhackers.com/5-year. I'm going to go ahead and change the offer in here. And actually, if you've already bought the offer, don't worry, you are still going to be getting this because you are in this webinar, so you will be getting this deal. That is, just to review all of this. Yes, we have to review this. There's a lot of stuff. All right, D4H Video Motivation Overdrive, which normally is $289. But the video lessons, bonus lesson, 5-week lesson plan, 10-minute challenges checklist, private Facebook group, monthly hangouts, Hangout Vault access, and then White Hot Course, which is normally $198, has the South by Southwest talk in it, the ebook, the makeover screencast, 3 of them, the White Magic screencast with the companion code. All of this, $37 a month, 6 payments. This is all self-paced. You can do it at your own pace if you want to. You can follow the lesson plan. It's all lifetime access. It's all instant access as well. You get it all right away. Even though you're paying month to month, you get it all right away. You can stream or download on any device. It's just $37 a month for 6 months. And that is designforhackers.com/5-year, or I have the deal available in the webinar software. Now, if you're wondering whether, if you're not sure and you kind of wonder what this all looks like and you'd like to feel it out, I do have a 60-day 100% money back guarantee for this stuff. I want people taking this course and in the community who are getting a lot of value out of it. And so if I want you to be satisfied. So if you want, you can buy it. You can get instant access to all of the videos. You can watch them all at once, or you can follow the whole 5-week lesson plan, because this is a 60-day guarantee. You can follow all of that. Go ahead, attend the Hangout, go in the Facebook group, get feedback on stuff. And within 60 days, if you decide that it's not for you, just email me and I will give you all of your money back, every payment that you made to me. All right, so that's at designforhackers.com/5-year. And you might be wondering, will it work for me? I want to introduce you to a few of the students that I have. One is Seth, and Seth, watch out for Seth, because he has been taking every course under the sun, not just my courses. He's been taking, I think, Charlie Hohn's courses and Ramit Sethi's courses and several others, and he is really just incredibly motivated. I'm just really impressed at how far he's come in the last year. He is a musician by training. He also is a marketer. He started a marketing consultancy recently and freelances that way. And then he's an author. He has a book coming out soon. It is all about sort of business for musicians, how to build a career as a musician. He's an orchestral musician, so plays freelance for different orchestras sometimes. And it's really impressive. And so he's used the things he's learned about design to art direct the cover of the book and to get feedback from different options in the community and stuff. And then also we've talked a lot about marketing the book and stuff in the Hangouts, and you have access to all of that, by the way. So look out for his work. That's going to be really cool. There's also Mark, who we have mentioned a couple of times already. He took the logo design course that I'm working on. There's the logo that he designed for his marketing consultancy that he's working on. This is like a data-driven marketing consultancy, because he's a data scientist, and he's been around for a while. He's an exciting student. There's also Lane. I worked with Lane as a one-on-one coaching student. She came to me because she was a little concerned about her logo for her company, which was going to be cast literally into, I think that's iron. I don't know. You can see on the handle in that image there that the logo was actually cast in there. She is one of the co-founders of Brooklyn Copper Cookware, which makes like the highest end copper cookware that you can possibly imagine. If you are somebody who loves cooking, you would probably love their pots. And so we went through all the exercises that I talked about in here, the brief and the vision board, and then also getting unstuck from various moves, and eventually came up with a logo that really works great for the company. Now, the best story that I love the most, which is actually crazy, is Shane. And I can't even show you Shane's picture because he's afraid that his employer is going to find out what he's been up to, and you'll see why in a second. Shane is a software architect, and Shane is a colorblind software architect. I believe it's red-green color blindness that Shane has. And so he has been using Design for Hackers. He's used that whole framework and methodology to design skins or themes for Bootstrap that he's been selling on the side. And he's made about $15,000 passively on the side, aside from his day job. So that's why he doesn't want his employer to know what's going on, because he doesn't want them to think that he's gonna like quit his job because of all that stuff. So if you are wondering if you can learn design, well, Shane, the colorblind software architect, got so good at it that he is actually selling things that like the only reason that you buy a theme is basically for the visual design of it, right? There's already Bootstrap. So he has these skins that he's selling. And here's a great quote from Shane. I still think learning some basic principles to make things that aren't ugly, TM, Shane has a great sense of humor, has been one of the best non-programming skills I could have picked up in my web programming career. That is from Shane. So I imagine there's probably plenty of questions, and I have had to ignore the chat up until now, unfortunately, just to keep things on track for timing for all of you who are taking your lunch break and stuff like that. Go to designforhackers.com/5-year. There's a timer on this deal. It is good for 48 hours. So grab it while it's available. It's only for webinar people, and you are not going to see it again because, well, all right. So it's been 5 years, built up all these things. You're basically getting all the courses that I've created, and as that community gets more members, and the members who have been in there for years now are getting more and more experience, they're making that community more valuable. The value of this community is going up as well. So take advantage of that today. And then now go ahead and, yes, I see Florian already has a question in the chat, and that's the best way to do questions. I'm not sure exactly how that works in the chat box, but if you mess around, you can hopefully figure out how to do that with questions. So Florian wants to know, is there any discount if I've already bought D4H Video Lite? Okay, just email me and perhaps we can work something out. And if you already have D4H Video Lite and you want to get in the community and you want to get the White Hot course in there as well, just shoot me an email and we can see if we can come up with something. That's kind of an edge case, so so I don't already have something set up. What are all the courses available in D4H? What's the total cost? That's these are all the courses. These are all the D4H video. These are all the D4H courses that are currently available. I did mention the logo design course. That's an alpha stage course. I've had one iteration of it. I might have another iteration of it sometime soon because it was really great. But that course I wouldn't consider that to be a course that's in the ecosystem right now. So you saw $298 is the price for D4H Video Motivation Overdrive, and White Hot course is $198, but it's $37 a month for 6 months, and you get all that stuff for lifetime. Can someone gift or sponsor courses for people who can't afford US dollars? If somebody wants to buy you a course, they can certainly do that. They can. I think there might be a way for them to send you the download link. When we are members, do we have access to new classes or are still a la carte? So things like totally new courses, such as the logo design course, which at this point is really hands-on. There's definitely no way to include that in this. But if there are any upgrades to this level of D4H Video or this level of White Hot course, which these are the premium levels, then you automatically get those. Something I forgot to mention is that you have lifetime upgrades to all these things. So people who were the first customers of White Hot course and D4H Video, they've already been accruing benefits for the purchases that they made years ago. And whenever new content comes out for those courses, that stuff's been available. And are there any other questions? Make sure that the offers, okay, yeah, you can see the offers in there. It shows the offer will end in 1 day, 23 hours and 49 minutes. So head over to designforhackers.com/5-year, and you can sign up for this. You'll have instant access to all this stuff with a 60-day money-back guarantee. And hopefully this will help you bust through those creative blocks, whether it's because you have a better understanding of design or because you can bounce it off somebody in the community. Where can we ask you questions, like specific ones? I'm not able to handle all the questions that I get via email, just because there's so many of them. I do read all of your emails, but it's just not realistic for me to be able to answer everybody's questions because I need to be spending my time creating content like the webinar, like the training that you had today. If you join the community, you can certainly ask me questions. Do you foresee adding new content to these courses, or are they completed to your satisfaction now? Andrew, I don't have any immediate plans to add content other than the fact that we have these Hangouts every month and that we're always talking about new things in these Hangouts. My current plan is to develop more courses, to get more specific into some of the needs that I've seen some students have, such as the logo design course. So in the immediate future, I don't think that I'm going to like have a new set of videos next month or anything, but it's certainly not out of the question for the future. It's really kind of a matter of time. John, thanks so much. It'd be great to have you in the course. Is there a way to pay for this offer in one go rather than monthly? Not for this particular offer. I don't have that available for this. I'm trying to just make it simple for people and just have it be the monthly thing. Sebastian, thanks so much for coming. Designforhackers.com/5-year doesn't appear to be loading. Okay, that's crazy. Can somebody confirm that? I'm checking myself. Yeah, it loads fine for me. Like I said, you're just gonna get a let's see here, I'm gonna bring this up. Oh, now you can see my face, kind of. So you're just gonna get a payment details page, and that, you know, might not look like it's the right thing, but it's the right thing. If you want to view details, there is the regular landing page at designforhackers.com/d4h-video/, or you can Google it. I didn't want to muck up this page with more stuff since this offer is just available for the webinar folks, and so I just making a direct link there. How to pay if not in USD? I want to pay in INR. I mean, if you have a credit card available, it should work just fine. And if you're having trouble, I realize that Sandel doesn't really have PayPal for their monthly payment stuff. If you are living in a country where you just don't have credit cards, email me and maybe we can figure something out. Roberto, thanks so much for coming. Guerrero, I would recommend that you go to designforhackers.com/goodies, and you can get the slide deck and all of the templates for this. Vera, thanks so much for coming. Oh, yeah, good night in Finland. Yeah, in Diaria, I hope I'm saying that right. Daria Shah. Can we pay tomorrow? You can pay tomorrow for sure. It'll be, I think, it'll expire on Friday at about 3 p.m. Central Time. And yeah. Trevor, thanks for helping out so much in the chat. Are there any other questions? I'm happy to stick around as long as need be. because I know that there are people who have to go, who only had maybe an hour. So that's why I tried to cram everything I could into an hour. And as long as my voice still works, I will hang out. Daria, thank you so much. Oh, it's great. I've been following you since all these years. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that so much, because really, you people help me do something that I really love to do for a living. And it's fantastic to learn about learning, and to try to and to teach people things through the things that I learn about learning is a great pleasure. Monthly hangouts. They tend to be around the third week of each month on a Tuesday, and I alternate the times. I have at 2 p.m. Central Time, and then I have at 8 p.m. Central Time. So that way I try to hit every time zone. Pretty much everybody around the world, there's some reasonable time that they can attend, because there's people in Singapore, and there's people in England, and all over the world. So that's when they tend to be. Scott, thank you so much. How to become a designer expert. It's like similar to you. I think that being intentional about it, having some sort of a plan to move forward, is very useful. I mean, that's the way that I've tried to design the course. Besides that, you also have to have a lot of your own personal curiosity and your own personal direction, your own sources of inspiration that you can follow and experiment and try things that end up not working, and do that for many years, and read a lot of books. Bye, Janelle. Thank you so much for coming. Have I always sought to teach as well as to design? No, I can't say that I did always seek to teach. It just sort of happened accidentally. I just was writing about it, or I was explaining it to a friend, and he thought it was really useful, what I had to say. So then I wrote about it, and then I ended up writing a book and stuff. And then this whole community and these courses came along, grew from that. Teaching is a great way to embed skills. Yeah, that's one of the great things about the community, is that it gives people a chance to help others with things that they have just learned, and it helps really embed those things. So I'm really, the learning gets hit from every imaginable angle. Daria, looking forward to having you in the course. Thank you. All right, it's looking like it's like people are starting to clear out and get back to their days and their work, hopefully newly inspired. We're down to 31 viewers. We were up at 170 or something. That is a lot of people to have attending something live in the internet in the middle of the day, with all the other things people have going on. So I hope it was very valuable for all those people. Yeah, the members of the Hangout of the Facebook group are all definitely very easy to. can chat with each other all they want in the Facebook group. It's great. Oh, 198 at one point. Wow. Thank you, Andrew. That's amazing. And how often do I have webinars? You know what? This is my first webinar that I've held on my own. So I might do more. It's been a lot of fun, but man, as a first one, it's like the first time you do anything, it's really you just like look at the side of my head. The first time you do anything, it's really it takes a lot of mental energy to do things from scratch. There were some courses that I looked at and stuff to try to put together a decent webinar, and hopefully that worked. And I hope to do some more in the future, but I don't have any scheduled or planned yet at this point. This was just to celebrate this 5 years. Ross thinks it hit 200. Odaria says 205. Whew, 205. That's amazing. That is a lot of people. The Facebook group, you will get an invite if you join at designbyhackers.com/5year. You will, in the download, you'll get a link to the Facebook group to join that Facebook group. So in case it's not clear, the Facebook group is just for students of this course. Thank you, Andrew. I will rest well. I mean, I would think I'll probably like get tired at some point later on in the day, but I was just so excited, especially when I saw how many people were signed up and coming, that I was able to have the energy to propel me through. So thank you for your concern, though. Thank you, Daria. It's great to have the hard work appreciated. All right, it looks like that's pretty much all the questions for today. But thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you in the course, designforhackers.com/5year. Thank you so much, everybody.